Welcome to The Jewish Lens, a podcast to discuss anything and everything from a Jewish perspective. Now, please help me welcome the man who controls the media, your host, Jonathan Rosen.
Hello, and welcome to another edition of The Jewish Lens. I'm Jonathan Rosen, and today I'm thrilled to welcome someone who's an author of such books as Virtual Dating, Your Guide to a Relationship in a Socially Distanced World, and Get Real, Get Married, Get Over Your Hurdles and Under the Chuppah, as well as the upcoming Matchmaker. And I've got the subtitle. Let's see. And she's
Find Me a Love That Lasts.
Find Me a Love That Lasts, right. And she's also the star of the fantastic Netflix series, Jewish Matchmaking. Please help me welcome the Jewish matchmaker herself, Aleeza Ben Shalom. Aleeza, thanks so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so happy to be here.
Well, to start with, I love the show, but I want to start with you. You grew up in Philadelphia. You're in Israel now. And so what was your upbringing like? You were not Orthodox as a child, correct?
That's correct. So I grew up Jewish, I would say conservative Judaism. I loved my Judaism, but we weren't practicing regularly, like Shabbat, kosher. Sometimes we kept kosher, depended on, like the year and what we learned and the inspiration. And then in my mid-20s, I was like, I like this Jewish stuff. Like all this stuff I've been learning about, I just don't want to have in my head. I want to have it in my life. And
That's what prompted you to go into that, to go follow that?
Yeah. It was like, I love it. Why shouldn't I live it? Right. I don't need to just love it. I wanted to live it also. And I started with things that I enjoyed. I loved Shabbat. So I started to keep Shabbat and I was like, kosher, cool. I could do that. And like, as you start to do these things, they're like, oh my gosh, like you're like Orthodox. And I'm like, oh, whatever you want to call it. I'm practicing my Judaism. I like Judaism. I like God, and I like more of that in my life.
We have similar things. I grew up also like kosher, but not Orthodox. My daughter went to Israel for a seminary, came back. She's Orthodox now, and she's pushing for the rest of us to go that path. So it's similar. So when you were growing up, did you know anyone who used a matchmaker? I mean, how accepted were they in your family or community?
Yeah, that's a good question. Do I know anybody who used a matchmaker? So no, not really. Like it's not, nobody, this is really good. You just asked me a question that nobody has asked me. I've been interviewed like over 100 times. So nobody's asked me that. I'm trying to think of like other than Fiddler on the Roof, which was like to make a reference, that Friends of Friends, they were set up by somebody, right? But it wasn't like a matchmaker. No, yeah, not until I hit the more Jewish or observant community did I start to hear about the matchmaker, which seemed like this very, Yenta, ancient, old kind of thing. Like you had to be 87 to be the Yenta of the community and to be the matchmaker. I learned it's not true. I could do it at 47.
Well, so how did you start getting into it? I mean, did you just start thinking like, oh, I know a friend who'd be great with another friend? How did you start getting in?
So, it's funny, growing up, I was always a connector. So I was always bringing people together. And I did that, from when I was 10 with my girlfriend to go to the camp dance, to high school and college where I'd stick people together and be like, well, maybe I think they like you. You like it. It's good. You should ask her out, kind of like make something like that happen. And then in my mid-20s, I got married. We had a couple kids and I was a stay-at-home mom and I was looking for something to do. And I called my girlfriend and I was like, hey, like, I need to do something, but like, I don't have time for a job. I just want to like do something to give back to the community. What can I do? And she's like, oh, you could be a matchmaker. And I was like, oh, what does that mean? And she's like, well, there's this dating website. You can go on it and you can be a matchmaker. And I was like, okay, I want to do that. And she connected me and I started on this site being a volunteer matchmaker for the Jewish people and just going through databases and getting to know people, calling them, connecting. And I was like, oh, this is good. And then I started talking to people a lot. And I was like, okay, this isn't just like matchmaking and sticking them together and connecting them.
Right.
This is like coaching. This is mentorship. This is support. This is like a whole thing. So I got into coaching and mentoring. And then you got to close the deal. It's either like, yay, we're going to the chuppah, or like, see you later, next one. And I started to get into it. And then I started training matchmakers and coaches and built a business and it organically evolved.
I'm shocked that there was a site that, you could go on, either find my match or that you could join it to be a matchmaker. That's
Yeah.
incredible to me.
So J Matchmaking, go to
Wow.
jmatchmaking.com or Aleeza Ben Shalom matchmaking.com. You'll see it's there. We collaborate with over 500 mitzvah matchmakers. They are doing this volunteer. They just love to help the Jewish people, and they're trying to bring more people
Oh, that's
together.
great. So what goes into matching? I mean, what's the process like? If I'm walking in and say, Aleeza, I want you to match me with someone, what happens after that?
Oh, that's good. So the first thing I want to do is know a little bit about your dating relationship history, just so I have an understanding who you are, how you grew up, where you came from, whether you've dated a lot, a little, somewhere in between, divorced, with kids, without kids,
Right.
widowed, family, whatever the situation is. So I learn about the history, and then I like to learn about the present and the future. What are your values? What do you want out of life? The meaning, the purpose, like what are your
Mhm.
life goals in 5 years and 10 years? Where do you want to end up? And what kind of a person would help you get to the end of that road? And then I work with somebody to help share who they are. Like you know who you are. Great, I know who I am,
Yeah.
but to reflect that to the world, to share that with somebody else, it's actually not so easy to do that. It's like, oh, I'm going to promote myself. It's very hard to be self-promoting. So I help them find the right words, and we have to go find the right photos, and then we have to get people out there, and either we are marketing to our internal network, or we go on the hunt like a detective, and we are like, private agents trying to find their person, and hunt them down and get the dates going, and not just get them on a date,
Right.
but get to a second date, a third date, see where the values are aligned. If there's problems, get them out. And if it's good, help to keep them in, and gently and lovingly nurture the process.
It's funny. I know several people who have no trouble self-promoting at all, but so you have a lot of sayings. I've been watching you, and I've been watching, reading about you. You have a lot of sayings, and one of them is like "date them till you hate them," which I
Yeah.
don't know about. But usually, I think you can pretty much know the first one, if there's chemistry or not. But so, what are some of your other sayings, and why should people follow the first one about the "date them until you hate them"? Why that one?
Okay, so date them till you hate them, and you're like, oh, I don't know. You know right away. So you might be a percent of people that just know right away, but there is an even larger percent of people, like maybe 15% of people, they're going to make a snap judgment in 3 seconds. They're in, they're out, they know, right? But like 70% of people are not really sure. And
Mhm.
they're like, well, I guess if I don't know, it's a no. And I was like, no, I don't know is a yes for another date. So another way of saying date them till you hate them is when in doubt, go out. When in doubt, go out. Like if you have an amount of doubt, if you're unsure, go out on another date. Give yourself a chance. Give them a chance. You can always say no next time. Like who cares? But get to know them a little bit more if there's an amount of doubt. So basically, if you're 100% sure that they're not for you, no problem. But if you're not 100% sure, then you should give yourself
Give
and
that another
and
shot.
give them give them a little more time. Give you a little bit more time to develop. I think also that the concept of rejection is God's protection. And this is something that I talk about in my new book, where people are devastated. They're like, oh my gosh, it didn't work out, and I'm never going to find anybody. And I'm like, no, it's dating statistics work like this. 99% of the people that you date are not going to be your person. And then that 1%, that one person is going to be your person. You're going to get married. Yay. Right. And that's the thing. So if you're dating properly, you should get
Mhm.
everybody should be a no until it's a yes. That's how you date the right way in order to figure out who's the right person. The other thing would be if let's just make it up. Everybody you date likes you and you like them. So you go out with somebody, and then you go out with another person, you go out with 10 different people. You like them, they like you, everything's great. How are you going to make a decision? You can't. You're literally in analysis paralysis. You literally
Mhm.
cannot function. That's another one of the sayings, but you cannot function. You cannot think who's the right one because they all seem right. So the blessing is in a no. You get a no. Yay, clarity, move on next. Not for me. That's really something that's tremendous.
Mhm.
I think you kind of organically got a whole bunch of my sayings. I'm seeing if there's anything else. A lot of times I tell people things like do the math.
Right.
Which is another chapter in my book. Like, do the math. Like, is this relationship worthwhile to stick in? Like, does it add up? Does it make sense? And also, if you're breaking up, does it add up? Like, why are you breaking up? Well, because I don't know if it's there. Well, if you don't know it's there, I'm pretty sure you should keep going out to figure out if it's there
What's
or
there?
not,
Right. Right.
you know?
So so after all this, you were doing this for a while. How did the series come about? How did they find you? come to the series?
Right. So a tremendous, tremendous blessing is that Indian Matchmaking was a show that came out in the
I
summer of
enjoyed that show. Yeah.
2020. Yeah, and they had been trying for a decade to get that show picked up, and it finally got picked up, and it came out during COVID, and everybody was watching
Right.
TV because
Yes.
we were all in lockdown, and it was a huge hit, and people loved it. And the production company IPC went to Netflix and said, like, we got a series here. This is amazing. Let's do a spinoff. And they said, sure. They're like, let's do Jewish matchmaking. And Netflix is like, maybe find me a Jewish matchmaker and then I'll let you know. And they went on the hunt for a Jewish matchmaker. They interviewed me and all of my colleagues, and they finally made a decision and said, great, we want you. We're going to do this. But we don't have permission yet from Netflix. We have to get, we found you, but we have to get this show greenlit and get a thumbs up. And then they got that. So it was really a blessing.
Were you at all nervous? I mean, thinking that you're going to be now seen by millions of people? Was there any sort of nerves that set into you?
So the only thing I was nervous about is that you can cut and paste and put things together in different orders, right?
Okay.
So we could be talking, right? And we could be laughing. So you could make me laughing with you or at you, depending on how you
Sure.
spin the clip, right?
Right.
So I know who I am, and I didn't want anything to come off not in the right way, like that I wouldn't like I try to be as careful as I can be, how I speak to people and what I say
Mhm.
and what I'm doing. And I work really hard, and I'm not perfect. Nobody is. I'm not an angel. I'm still a human, but I work really hard to try to take very good care of people, and especially singles, because they're really beaten up by the whole system, and the whole process is a very difficult process. So I was very nervous. Like they could make or break you. And when they
Right.
say make you, they're going to turn you into who they want you to be, not necessarily who you are. That was my biggest concern. And I have a tremendous amount of gratitude to them, to the production company, and to God for making me who I am. Like what you see on the show,
It's
and when you
authentic.
meet me, people are like, oh my gosh, that's you. They're like, how did they do that? I was like, because they nailed it. They saw the essence of who I was, and they didn't make me into a character that I wasn't. They just leaned in to who I really was. And I'm forever, forever grateful to them.
Well, that's one of the things that I was wondering about too, because it's Netflix has some shows that I would say don't treat Judaism, very well to me, in my opinion. So I was
Right.
curious, like there are moments that kind of like I'll say goy-splaining, where they just like say, this is what we want you to do, and you say, no, that's not how things are,
So, what's really interesting is that they leaned into the Judaism piece, and sometimes in the series they explained things, and sometimes they didn't. So, like I walked into a room and I would kiss the mezuzah as I
Right.
walked into the room. It's just one of the customs. And I said to them, like, this is something I do. Like, you might want to catch that on camera. You might not know what it is, right?
Okay.
And this is something I do. They didn't actually explain it. They did show it, but they didn't explain it. But
Okay.
then something like Shomer Negia, guarding the touch, not touching when you're dating, they let me go on a whole rant and they explained the whole thing. And it was like, wow, I didn't know about that. And people were like, oh my gosh, I learned so much. So I found it fascinating. Some things you just saw, and other things you saw and they were explained. And I think for a curious person, if they didn't explain something, you Googled it. People told me,
Okay.
they're like, even non-Jewish people, they were like, I asked my Jewish friend, what does this mean? She said something. What is that? And they're like, I don't know, look it up. So it was really cute, really cute.
So did they give you like guidelines that you have to follow, or did you have the freedom to do things your way? Like, were you able to decide which people to bring on? Or did some executives say, we really would prefer if you make this one?
Okay, so that's a good question. So the main characters and people that were on, they did a huge mass interview,
Okay.
and they had their like top picks of who they thought would be best, but they asked for my feedback, which was amazing,
Mhm.
but they made the final cut. So like the top, we probably filmed with like 10 or 11 different people. You don't see all of them. Not everything that we filmed made it into the show. But those main people, they made the picks. But if I had a recommendation, they took it seriously, and took it into consideration. But the daters and the people that I set up with the main people, those were all my picks. They didn't say you have to set somebody up. Like they're like, who do you have in your database and your Rolodex to set these people up?
But you were like, did you get like a say over a final edit at the end also, or no?
No,
You
they won't give
no,
that. They
no.
won't give that away. That they have
Okay.
to hold on to final control. They were very generous in allowing me to review things.
Okay.
And there was really only like one or two things. I was like, that wasn't my reaction. Go back and look. That's not nice. I wouldn't do that. So change it. That was like but they did. It was,
They
and
did.
I was shocked. It was very, very, very minimal. And I feel, again, I feel really, really blessed that they took such good care of me. And the people that were on the show also, like, they are who they are. You see their persona, and like, I met them. They're like that. They're just, like, everybody has their little funky things, but that's not all of who they are, right? Like, that's like one slice of them, and you're missing like the rest. But what you see is accurate. It's just not a full picture.
But my mom was very disappointed with some of the endings of the shows.
I know. I know. Some people were really crushed about
Yeah,
Faye
she was
and
talking to me about
Shia.
it. So,
One of the more religious couple, and everybody had their
well,
who they were rooting for.
right. Well, speaking of religious, that's what did you feel yourself like any pressure that you're a representative of the Orthodox community and needed to be portrayed in a positive, light because of that?
So first of all, I would want to be portrayed in a positive light,
Sure. Yeah.
no matter where
Right.
where I was and who I was a part of, for me, for my family, and because of who I am.
Yeah.
But even more so for the Jewish people and the Orthodox Jewish
Right.
people, yes, because there's not many or almost any positive Jewish representation in Hollywood. It hasn't. Allison Josephs from Jew in the City. She's fighting Hollywood to have an accurate, fair representation, not just positive, but at least accurate and fair. Positive would be great.
Right. Right.
And she said that this was an example of an accurate and positive representation, and it's really one of the first times that it's been done. So I was concerned, and I just feel grateful to the production company and Netflix for putting out also something good about all Jewish people, not just Orthodox. There
No,
were
I agree.
and people that never even dated Jewish people before, and they're like, yeah, I'm going to give this a try. And I thought it was so amazing that we had Jews from all walks of life, and they were all represented as who they were, and nobody was trying to change anybody or make them into anything that they weren't. They just were who they were. It was really
No, I
beautiful.
agree with you 100%. Because I've seen the shows that portray the Orthodox as like, oh, we need to, they're like crazy, or we need to get away from this. And so you're very different than that. And it came across
Right.
really positively to me. So, yeah, and
And it's really who I am. There are different sides to
for sure.
Judaism.
It seems that.
It's just,
Yes.
it's just nice that they finally showed the good side.
Well, you took a wide variety, Orthodox, you took a wide variety, I guess, of Jews on the show. You had from the people that you chose from. So I guess to different degrees of Judaism. So was that by design from the start, or has it just worked out that way?
No, it was designed from the start. And for me personally, I work with a wide variety. I
Okay.
work with secular, I work with religious, I work with traditional, and everything in between. So that's my experience. Because I grew up secular, I know secular. Because I
Right.
became religious, I know religious. So, and I've also dealt with older singles and younger singles. So from 18 to 89 has been, the wide range. Mostly 25 to 45 is like the sweet spot, sometimes younger, sometimes older. But I've worked with so many different people. I was actually thrilled that they gave me a wide variety, because it's very representative of how I work in general.
Is it tougher to match, I get people who aren't Orthodox? Because I have a follow-up as well. Are there some people who are tougher personality-wise to match? I'm asking because some places are more laid back than the others. And as I was watching, and I have to say that, I lived in Israel for a couple of years as a kid, so I know Israelis very well, and it seems to me that they're tougher than others in like, oh, I need this particular thing. So is it tougher, in some areas more than others?
Yes. Definitely the answer is yes. What's more challenging, or not challenging, but different about the secular community, is that their timeline is much longer.
Okay.
So in terms of dating, how long they're going to date, and in terms of engagement, how long they're going to be engaged, and when they would like to get married. So some of them are like, yeah, I mean, in 4 years from now, I'm ready to get married. Okay, so it's not super marriage minded. Like, okay, just hold off. And then, like in 2 years, we'll start dating. And like, hopefully in the 2 year span, we'll find your person. And it's hard to maintain a relationship for a really long time when you don't have the commitment of marriage, and when you're not sure, like, you're my person. So, there are some challenges that are there, but the Orthodox community has the opposite challenges, which is like, in very right circles, within 10 dates, you're going to know if this is your person. You'll either be engaged or break up. And I'm like, well, if you have anxiety, this is not good for you. And if you have all these other things, like, it's not a perfect thing. It's very important that we focus on giving each person what they need through the dating process and taking it through the timeline that works for them.
And just curious, in your regular, away from the show, what are the majority of your clients? Is there any one particular set more than the others, I guess?
Okay, so here's what's really fascinating. I would say before the show, 75% of my clients were religious and 25% were not.
Fine.
Now it's the reverse, but the quantity of clients that I have has multiplied. So I don't actually think that there's, there could be fewer religious clients, but there's an influx of non-religious clients that came in, and people who are very interested to get the support they need. And they're like, oh my gosh, there's a matchmaker that can help me and I don't have to be Orthodox. Yes.
Right.
So
I was
so
wondering
we're here
if
to
you
support
started getting an influx after the show. I would assume yes, but
Yeah.
so during the course of the show, how directly were you involved with each couple? Like, did you get reports that say so and so are not into each other? Or do you need a push? You have to intervene. Did you start getting reports that you had to go and start dealing directly with them?
Yeah. So in general, with matchmaking, I follow up with everybody personally. We text, we email, we talk, we connect, and I would follow up after the dates. Like, how did it go? Before the date, I prepped everybody. You're going to go out on camera 1 or 2 times. I want you to go out off camera also. I want you to experience each other. I want you to meet each other without the distraction of camera and see if there's something really there. Don't just nix them because on camera it didn't work. You guys made an effort to do a program and to do this, so let's make an effort to go out. So they basically mostly agreed to that. And then I would follow up with them. How did it go? What's the continuation? Are you going to keep dating? Are you not? After we left a city, if a couple was going to continue dating, we had to manage to keep that relationship going until the next time we came back. And sometimes it's like 2 months later that, we're coming to film. So we could film in, I don't know, February and not come back until February, we didn't get back, March, April, May, 3 months later, May to film again. Right. So it is navigating in a real way, matchmaking and the relationship and keeping it going off camera and in the real world
Right.
in order to see, what the potential is for when we come back.
But were there any couples that you thought for sure were going to make it and didn't? I'm just curious.
I never have a for sure because it's
Okay.
matchmaking. Nothing is for sure. But there were some couples where we kind of had like high hopes, like Nikisha and Evan. She was the one from Kansas,
Yeah.
and they just had a chemistry that was so nice. And I was like, oh, just like warms your heart. You see a couple. And from Israel, Noah and Tav. He was the Israeli guy that was like the main, person.
Right.
And she was somebody that I met, and I knew her through her sister. And I was like, oh my gosh, this would be an amazing match. Would you do this? And she's like, on TV? I was like, yeah. She was like, maybe. I was like, no, I need you. You're wonderful. This is a really good match. And then like the timing, she was in school. She had to go back to the States. Like there wasn't enough, there was a good chemistry that happened, but there wasn't enough glue there to actually stick it together for a long term and long distance, which was really hard.
Yeah.
And of course, Faye and Shia, the religious couple that I think everybody was hedging their bets, but I knew that the religious differences were going to be something that was something that, yeah.
Now, will there be a season 2? Any word whatsoever yet?
Yeah, no, I don't have any word yet. The Jewish world's a little complicated at the moment. But the next best thing that's coming out is the book,
I'm going to talk about that right now. Yes.
Okay, good.
You have a couple of books. I want to talk about all 3 of them. So you have the virtual dating, and you have the Get Real, Get Married, and now the new one, the Matchmaker. Can you tell me a little bit about the 3? We'll definitely focus most on the upcoming one.
Okay. So virtual dating came out during COVID because I didn't know when the world was going to go back to normal.
Right.
And long distance dating is different than virtual dating. And that's why I wrote that book. And it was really helpful for getting through that time period. Get Real, Get Married is my first book that I wrote, and it is like my love. I put like my heart, my soul, and my kishkas into this book, line by line, like edited every single word of it. And it was like, if I never do anything again, I at least want to do this. And I self-published those two books because I just wanted to get out there and I wanted people to have the wisdom that I had to share. And after the show, I was approached by a literary agent and a publishing company, and Matchmaker, Find Me a Love That Lasts. It's gonna come out. It's not out yet. This is like a sample copy that I got, but it's coming out December 3rd, and it is on pre-sale, and you can get it wherever you buy books, Amazon, Barnes and Noble, you name it, you can grab it. And what I love about this is that it's a nonfiction book, but it reads like a fiction, and it's fascinating. You hear client stories, you go through all the things and you learn all the wisdom, but through the experience of the story. So it's not just like a nonfiction read that kind of doesn't engage you in like the story of it. There's like you see me kind of like the show, like they're like hands-on really working through it. And then at the end of every chapter, there's tips and there's like take-home advice. Okay, like you might want to try this on for size, see if you like this. Things like, like the 5-date challenge, which is mentally committing to going on 5 dates, considering maybe not to touch for the first 5 dates. By the way, I've had Jewish and non-Jewish singles do this, non-religious, and they're like, the best thing that ever happened. I've been dating I asked the guy I was dating at the time if we could do it. He's like, sure, I'll give it a try. She's like, we've been dating for over a year. Thank you, Aleeza. I love you. So I have a lot of wisdom here. And this is amazing for singles, but also for anybody who wants to help somebody single. And you're like, I don't know what to do for them. I do. And I'll tell you, it's all in the book. So you can like learn. I think everybody in the world should learn how to be a matchmaker. Right? If you could just, as a hobby, everybody, you do all these different, maybe you go golfing and maybe you go swimming and hiking and biking and matchmaking, like at least once a month to make a match suggestion of single people, because everybody knows somebody single. It could be your grandmother and your bubby, your savta, or it could be, your daughter or your neighbor or your friend or your coworker. But I think we all meet single people and know them, and we should help them out if they're looking for somebody and try to make introductions. Only if they're looking. If they're not looking, leave them alone.
Well, you also have a couple of podcasts, right? The Matchmaker one, and the Yentas. So can you tell a little bit of those podcasts?
Yeah, absolutely. So Matchmaker podcast, I love. I collaborate with Rabbi Yisrael Bernath. He's known as the Love Rabbi. He had a show called Kosher Love. And
I love those.
It's so funny. He's like, we're like twins, like, like he's like the male version of me of what I do, and I'm the female version of what he does. And we absolutely, we love to help people. So we take one question every podcast. The podcast's like somewhere between 10, 12 minutes, something like that. We answer the question, right? There's like over 60 questions or more by now. And if you like that episode, great. Listen, if not, you can skip it. You can go through 60 more. And we like hash it out and we banter a little bit. He likes this and I like that. We agree, we disagree, we fight it out. But we come to giving advice on one very specific topic, unless we get off topic, which is fun too. And like, we kind of like, drive the point home, and that's it. We cut, we move on. People love it. They're like, oh my gosh, it was my like 10-minute lunch break. It was my walk around the park. I was in between my train and then I was listening on the way, and it was just phenomenal.
Girls disagreeing with each other. I can't even imagine that.
Right? A matchmaker and a rabbi, 47 opinions.
And what are the Yentas about?
And the Yentas is amazing. It's a mini series with 2 of my matchmaking colleagues from Philadelphia, Michal and Danielle. And we banter and talk about dating, love, and relationships. We take like a Jewish word and a matchmaking related word. We talk about it. We dig into it. We bring on singles live to ask questions and talk about dating, and we talk with them. And we have a real chemistry between the 3 of us, because we all were in different parts of the matchmaking industry, doing things nonprofit and for-profit and a business, working for ourselves, having our own business. And so we bring different things to the table, and also everybody has different personalities. So it's just fun, a lot of fun.
Well, a couple of other things before we go. So do you have a best and worst matchmaking story? Like, did you hear from someone later on that went out and they were just checked in with you and like, I can't believe that this happened?
So there's always that best story where like they met them on the first date and it's like, oh my gosh, it was amazing. But those really worry me. The best stories to me are the ones where they're like, I like this person. I see potential. I'm willing to go out, right? And I'm like, oh, good, good. And then they do it again and again and again. And we get in 1 month and 2 months and 3 months. And I'm like, okay, see, like this is good. There's something really beautiful that's happening. The best, oh my gosh, the best and the worst. Okay, I'm going to tell you the worst because that first came to my head.
Okay.
I made a match with this couple, and they were both from different places out of town. And I was like, you know what? Come to my house for Shabbos. You're going to meet here, okay? They were talking for a week. They're calling me. They're like, oh my gosh, we're going to get married. I'm so happy. It's amazing. And I was like, okay, this was in my early days. I'm like really naive about it. And then they come to my house and he's what I call DOA, dead on arrival. He walked in the door and he was flat. Personality was flat, emotions were flat, facial expressions were flat. He literally just showed up and he said hello to her and hello. And I was like, okay. I was like, I took him aside. I'm like,
Oh my gosh.
what's wrong? Is she not attractive? No, no, she's very attractive. Is she not what you thought she would be? No, no, she is. She's the same as she was on the phone as she is in person. And I said, okay, then it's you. What's wrong? Like, I
Wow.
don't understand. And he never, I was like, listen, you'll bounce out of it tomorrow. It'll be better. Sleep. Maybe you're jet lagged. I don't know. Benefit of the doubt. He never bounced
Oh my
back.
gosh.
And she was like devastated. They're like, so I learned my lesson very quickly that we have to just, until everybody meets, we don't get
You don't know.
excited about, yeah, we don't know. We don't know.
And so why use, just for people to watch, why use a matchmaker instead of like these apps like, Bumble or JDate or things like that?
Okay, so first of all, Bumble or JDate, those things are your own matchmaking system. Okay.
Hmm.
That makes you your own matchmaker, which is great. You just got to know what to do with it. You need to know how to become your own matchmaker and all the tricks of the trade because it's like a system of what to do and how to do it. And otherwise, you can burn out. So I'm not anti-app. I am actually very pro-app, and I believe that they're around, and I believe that they'll be around for a long time. But why use a matchmaker? I think that if you are tired of doing it on your own, if you'd like support and different ideas and different ways to do it, if you'd like a different network and for somebody else to spend hours researching and digging in and looking and doing the second job of finding your person, then it's time to bring a matchmaker in. I think if you're very young, you have people coming to you, it's no problem. Experience it. Call us in 10 years if you still have a problem. If you're in a good spot and you're like, no, I meet people, but like it's not working out, I tell you get dating coaching. Don't hire a
Right.
matchmaker. We have coaches. Work with us in coaching. 75% of the people that come to us for coaching, we can navigate and help them get to their person without ever matching them. They do the matching. We just give all the support. But if you're really at a place where you're like, oh, enough already. I can't take this anymore. It's not worth it. And like, I just need to bring somebody in to support. Like, look, for me, when I want to get fit and work out, I have a personal trainer. You think I'm going to do it on my own? Am I that disciplined? I'm not. I wish I was, but some people are. So if you are, you can do it on your own. But if you're not that kind of human, get another human to help you. And that's what we can do for you.
And what if someone wants to become a matchmaker? What is their
Oh
process
my
to go through?
Oh, there's a process and I love it. Please become a matchmaker. Even if it's just part-time, even if it's just as a volunteer, even if it's a community service, I believe that everybody should be making matches. So we do have a course. It is called Mentors Academy, and it gives you the coaching, it gives you the matchmaking, and it pulls it all together so that you can either do this for yourself, work for a nonprofit, work for a for-profit, make your own business. Like
Mhm.
I tell people, like, come on, there's no such thing as competition. It's all about collaboration. You build a business and you build a business. There's always going to be enough singles in the world, and we're always going to need
Sure.
more help than is available. So you can grab that. It's all on my website if you go to my name,
That
Aleeza Ben
sounds
Shalom.
fun. Actually. So what advice would you give to people who are depressed and feel like they're not going to meet the right person ever?
So first of all, I want you to think about everybody that you know in the world who's married. Okay. So you might you not meet your person? Yeah, but look how many people get married. Tall people and short people and fat people and skinny people and wealthy people and broke people and
Right.
ugly people and pretty people. people get married. So why wouldn't you get married? Like, because it didn't work before now? It's not supposed to. That's like the blessing in a no. That's rejection is God's protection. It never works until it works. Dating is a 99% failure rate if you're doing it right, and 1% that marriage rate that you get your person when it works. And it has to be the right person, and it has to be the right time. So if you're feeling depressed or you're feeling hopeless or you just don't know what to do anymore, first of all, take a break, go on vacation, go do something to reset yourself and rejuvenate yourself. Number 2, dig into your hobbies. What passions do you have? What lights you up? What makes you happy? Do more of things that make you happy. And then number 3, get somebody to support you through the process, whether it's professionally, like with somebody like us, or whether it's a friend or a relative or a neighbor. Have somebody help do things. I've had friends tell me, they're like, oh yeah, my friend is swiping for me. I was like, okay, good. Let them do it. Like, farm out the work. Like, people want to have fun with it, and let people help you and get the support that you need.
Good advice. Now, with the show, we're not sure if the show's being picked up yet or not. You have a book coming out. Is there anything else that you're working on next?
Oh man, I have big plans.
Good.
Big plans. Okay, I'll just tell you, I'm gonna just say my hopes and dreams. Can I tell you
Okay.
hopes and
Absolutely.
nothing's a reality. Nothing's a reality until it actually
Yes.
happens. But I would like to have a relationship podcast. Like Dr. Laura Schlesinger, she has her show on relationships, Q&A, people call in, asking, answering, and all of that.
That'd be great.
Like, yeah, you need a new, modern matchmaker to be doing that. So that's what I'm going to be doing next. Where, when, how? When God tells me, I'll tell you.
Well, I hope you'll come back then when you do. But
Amen.
are there things going on in the background that maybe that you're working on this already, or no?
Yeah. I got people.
We won't talk about that.
I got people who know people, and we're having
Okay.
conversations.
All right,
But I'm working on I'm working on taking my vision, my dream, and making it a reality, and manifesting what needs to happen. I think I did a good job before. It worked before, so I should be able to manifest new
I'd love to
things
see that. And so, how can people follow you on social media?
Okay, go to my name, Aleeza Ben Shalom. It's Aleeza spelled with 2 E's, Aleeza Ben Shalom. And you can find me on Instagram, all of them. So everything is at Aleeza Ben Shalom.
You also have the website. What's the website again?
You can also just go to my name. That's the easiest one.
That's the easiest one.
AleezaBenShalom.com. Yeah, just everything Aleeza Ben Shalom. You can find me. You can Google me. Reach out, say hello, schmooze, tell me you like the show, tell me you hated the show. That's okay. Whatever you just say hello.
Well, Aleeza, thank you so much. It was a real pleasure. I'm a big fan of yours, and I hope the podcast comes through, the speaking one. So that would be great. But again, thank you so much for joining.
Thank you for having me.
Again, this has been the Jewish Lens. I'm Jonathan Rosen, and again, a very special thanks to Aleeza Ben Shalom. And please like, comment, and subscribe.
Thanks for tuning in to the Jewish Lens, where all items used was strictly kosher.